What's up, y'all? Good morning, man. So I just want to tell you guys a little bit about my story getting into real estate. So fresh out of George Mason, shout out Mason Nation. I got a job at a used car dealership in Fairfax, Brown's Mazda Fairfax, um, and did really well. My first year made some really good money. My second year um, did even better. And when you make good money over 2 years and you go to your accountant says, "Hey, you need to buy a house, right? You need some write-offs." So, um, figured that was something that I needed to do. And my dad, in his infinite wisdom, saved $10,000 for my graduation present from Mason and presented it to me at the time I was ready to buy a house. So for all you parents out there, that's a wonderful, wonderful gift that look what it's bloomed into, right? So I go to get pre-approved, everything's cool, and I start riding around to open houses. That's what you did back in 2000, 2001. And every agent that was in those offices, that were in those houses, would never acknowledge me, would never really talk to me. So I go back to my dad that next weekend. I'm like, "Hey, Dad, man, this me buying a house isn't real. I just don't feel like it's the right thing to do. I'll just keep renting." So you know how my dad is. If you guys have met my dad, he was like, "Nah, that's not a good answer." So he's like, "I'm gonna come up next weekend and we're gonna go out to open houses." So he comes up the next weekend, and I walk into the houses, and again, most of the agents won't really acknowledge me, right? They'll acknowledge my dad, right? Because my dad's older. But me, who was the buyer, they wouldn't acknowledge. So I finally get to an agent, little like a black agent. She's like reminds me of one of my aunties, and she goes, "Alan, I'll help you out. I'll show up. Come to my office next Tuesday, and we'll get you set up to buy a house." So we're good to go. I show up next Tuesday on my day off, and she stands me up. So I call my dad. I'm like, "Man, this is not meant to be. I'm not supposed to buy a house. I'm gonna keep renting." And my dad, he kind of let me simmer down and calm down. And that next Wednesday, I'm back in the car dealership, and the next person that comes into the car dealership is a young Latino agent, Lydio. Shout out to you, Lydio. Sits down and buys a Mazda 626. And I didn't know at that time he was a real estate agent, but when back then you would write out after you selected the car, you would write out what you did. So he wrote out on his application he was a real estate agent. So I knew that was God speaking to me, and I told Lydio at that moment that I'm going to buy a house to you, and I did. And from that point on, I knew that my calling was supposed to be helping people that wouldn't necessarily get the help that they needed um, to buy a home and to understand how real estate plays this huge part in building wealth. So I'm gonna share a number with you: 74% versus 44%. So the home ownership rates for someone who is white in the nation is 74%. The home ownership for someone who's black is 44%. So when we start talking about race is one of those things that permeates. It gets into pretty much every segment of society in some way, right? And it affects it, right? And the funny thing is, everyone thinks it's so far like in the past, and it's just not, man. We had a client who called us about 2 weeks ago who basically fired his agent because his agent called Woodbridge Hoodbridge and thought that was okay. And the client was a military guy overseas, and she happened to be white, and she thought that was okay, and she couldn't see how that was something that affected him. We happen to be a top 200 team, Keller Williams team in the nation, and whenever I go into these masterminds, there are only three teams out of the entire nation that are in those masterminds. Um, I happen to be blessed to own 20 properties, and I can't tell you how many times I've showed up and the tenants have been surprised that it's like that. It's me, look, it's me. Oh, you. It happens every time. And the crazy thing is, racism even plays Jedi mind tricks on black people, right? So we've had a couple of clients within the past, I would say, 12 months, black clients who've decided not to use us because they felt that a white agent was going to better serve their purposes based off of their color, right? Not based off of their merit, right? But based off of their color, because they were going into McLean, they were going into these other places where they felt like that having a black agent represent them wasn't the best overall strategy for them getting what they needed to get done. So I just first I want to shout out to all. I've got clients from all over the color spectrum, and we've been blessed that I can be 100% myself, and I've had clients that have hired it. So first of all, to my white clients and clients of different colors, different hues, that chose us based off of our merit over our melanin. Let me first tell you, you are an anomaly, and I want to thank you, right? Because that is more rare than you think, more rare than you think. So thank you. And that's why I try to be, and we try to be the best that we can be. So there is no excuse, right? And then people have been calling me and asking me how they can help, right? And I think that it's very hard for us to like do it all, right? So choose something that you can go deep on. Mine happens to be housing in the community, right? So that's why we go to mentor at these Title I schools. And that's why I try to be the best real estate agent I can possibly be. If yours happens to be housing, if you're a real estate agent, I would suggest that there are two books that you need to read. The first book that you need to read is The Color of the Law. And the second book that you need to read is called Family Properties. And if you guys need to help me, if you need me to help you find that link, I can help you find it. But if we all like just go deep on what we can go deep on, whether it's education, whether it's housing, whether it's lending, that's a whole nother other thing, access to money. Look at those numbers. Those numbers are crazy. If it happens to be prison reform, if it happens to be policy change, whatever you're good at, go deep on that, right? And you will find that you'll be able to understand that there's some things that we need to change that are really based off of someone's skin tone, rather than so many other things that are important. So I just wanted to share my story about race and real estate, and just wanted to let you guys know that man, it is heavy. I'll be honest, man. It is heavy. It's not something that that keeps me or other go-getters from not moving forward, but it is certainly something that we have to carry, that most people don't. So love you guys. I hope that story kind of enlightens you. Yeah, man, you had the dream. We had the address. I'll let you later. Peace.